If you watched the last video, then you already know this. Your profit and loss statement is not just a report. It's your business talking to you. And for many home care agencies, it's saying one thing very clearly. You have profit leaks. Now, before we go any further, let me ask you something. If your revenue is going up, why isn't your profit following? Because in many home care businesses, the problem is not the lack of clients bringing in the revenue, it's profit leaks. Money is coming in, but it's quietly seeping through the cracks. And if you don't know where it's going, you can grow your business and still not build real profit. Now, here's the good news. Once you can see the leaks, you can fix them. But here's where a lot of agencies get stuck. They look at the bottom number, they feel overwhelmed, and they just go right back to focusing on getting more clients. But more clients will not fix a leaking business. It will only make the problem bigger because revenue can grow while profits stay stuck. You kind of plateau with your profits. So today we're going to walk through how to fix those profit leaks using your numbers, simply but with the right strategy. And if you think about it, it's really like a leaky bucket. Many of you know the leaky bucket story, right? You can keep pouring water in the bucket, more clients, more billable hours, more revenue. But if there are holes at the bottom, it doesn't matter how much you pour in. You'll never fill the bucket. The real solution is not just pouring more in, it's plugging the holes first. That's the first step. Plug the holes before you add more clients. Otherwise, you're just going to be struggling, stressing, like you're going around, you're spinning wheels, right? At the end of the day, you don't see where your efforts are going. You see the revenue, but you see the bottom line doesn't reflect the effort that you're putting in, or the bottom line doesn't reflect the top line, right? Okay. So the very first step is to identify where the leak actually is. Don't guess, don't assume. Identify it using your numbers. Go to your P&L and ask yourself 3 simple questions. Where is my money coming from? Where is my money going? And what is left at the end of the day? Now, this may sound simple, but this is where most people miss it. They look at their numbers, but they don't study them. They can scan, they can glance, and they move on. But stronger business owners do something different. They interpret the numbers. They ask questions like, what is this number telling me? Then they go one level deeper. Look at your labor costs as a percentage of revenue. Look at your operating expenses line by line. Look at your trends over the past 3-6 months, because your leak is not random. It's already showing up in your numbers. And here's something else to keep in mind. 1 month can lie to you, but patterns don't. So don't just look at where you are, look at where you've been. That's where clarity comes in. Now, once you've identified the leak, the next step is to fix it at the source. This is where many agencies lose money without realizing it. They treat symptoms instead of causes. Let's say your labor costs are high. The quick reaction is, well, we need more clients, but that's not the strategy. That's not the right thing to do at that time. But you're just thinking, okay, I need to manage my labor costs by bringing in more revenue to absorb the extra costs. Well, if you have other underlying causes to those leaks, that alone is not going to work, right? That alone is not going to fix your leaks. At that point, you're just reacting, right? You just want to get more clients. You're just reacting. It's not a strategy, it's just pressure. The real question you should be asking yourself, are my labor costs high? What does my overtime look like? Or are there some scheduling inefficiencies I need to look at? Is it underpricing of your services? Is it last-minute coverage decisions where you have to incentivize caregivers more because somebody called off last minute and you have to, find a substitute? All those things you need to take into consideration to see the real reason why your labor costs are high. So first, we have to identify the leaks before we even start thinking about strategy to fix them. And we don't react, we actually study the numbers to understand what these numbers are telling us, where we've been and where we are right now. Because each of those things I mentioned earlier, they lead to a different solution. So instead of reacting, diagnose the issue properly. Just like in care, you don't treat the symptom without understanding the root cause. The same applies to your business. And here's the mindset shift I want you to remember. Profit is not an accident, it is designed. That means if your profit is low, it's not random. It's pointing to something that needs your attention. And sometimes the leaks are not big, dramatic things. Sometimes they are small things that add up over time. I remember a situation in our own business. We had stopped using a particular software. You know, in our minds, we were done, we're moving on to something else. But we didn't follow up to make sure the charges had actually stopped. And guess what? We're still being billed month after month. It wasn't a huge number on its own, but over time it added up. And that's how leaks work. They don't always show up as big problems. They show up as small, consistent drains. Let's make it very real with simple numbers. Let's say your agency generates 100,000 in revenue for the month, right? That's good. But now let's interpret the numbers. Your caregiver wages and payroll costs come to, say, 65,000. That puts you at 65% labor market costs or labor market rate. That's on the high side. Okay. So you start seeing how these numbers can, so you start seeing how these numbers can affect your bottom line. That 65% is not just high. It's telling you something is out of alignment. Maybe it's your pricing, your scheduling, or overtime. Now, when you subtract that from revenue, you're left with 35K as your gross profit, right? But now let's interpret the numbers. Your caregiver wages and payroll costs come to, say, 65,000, right? That would represent your COGS or cost of goods sold number, okay? That puts your cost of goods sold at 65%. Now, that number is not just high, it's telling you something that you need to really take a closer look at. And I say high, quote unquote high, because you need to look at the full picture. So in some cases, that may be okay. Like if you have general expenses or operating expenses that are reasonable, that number is telling you something is out of alignment. Could be your pricing, your scheduling, overtime. So Dexter, you're going to continue from where it says, now you subtract that from revenue, okay? All right, sorry about that. That's 65,000, that number 65,000. If you remember from the last video, that's what we refer to as COGS, C-O-G-S, right? That's the cost of goods sold. And I said it's usually between 35 to 65%. So if you have 65%, it means you're on the higher end, right? Okay, let's continue. Like I said, when you subtract that 65,000 from your revenue for that month, you're left with 35,000 in gross profit. And if you remember, I said that was your breathing room. Then you have to look at your operating expenses, your office staff, your rent or mortgage, your software, insurance, and so forth. Maybe they take 30,000 a month. What are you left with? 5,000 as your bottom line. 5,000 out of what? 100,000 K for that month. So you see how you start peeling back the numbers and then they start telling a story, right? So you're looking at your 5,000 and like, wow. But here's where this is what stronger operators do differently. They don't just say we need more revenue. They ask, what lever can I pull now? Because you have three main levers here. You have your pricing, your labor efficiency, expenses, right? All of that, some of even other things to look at that can help you bring down that 65,000 number, that COGS number, right? The cost of goods sold number. That number you need to bring down, and then you need to bring down your, which will increase your gross profit, right? And then you also need to bring down your general expenses. Let's continue and see how the numbers play out. Okay, let's say you improve your scheduling and you reduce overtime and you bring down that labor cost from 65% to 60%. That saves you 5,000. Now your profit doubles to 10,000. Same clients, same revenue, but better decisions. You see that? Now let's say you catch small leaks here and there. or use software like in our case, and you save another 2,000. Now your profit moves up to 12,000. So these are some little strategies that you can put in place instead of just reacting quickly to bring in more clients. You bring in more clients, bring in more revenue, but then your expenses and all those other leaks are usurping, eating up your net profit, your bottom line. Now you see how we moved from 5,000 to 12,000, right? And here's the key insight. Those are higher quality dollars. You didn't work harder for them. You kept more of what you already earned. And once you plug those holes, then and only then does it make sense to go after more clients. Because now when you pour more into the bucket, it actually fills. Here's what brings it all together. Fixing profit leaks is not something you do once. It's not a one-time and done thing. No, you have to keep going back to the drawing board. Keep looking at those numbers to see, hey, new leaks may show up, right? So you have to keep going back. And this is something that as the owner or as the CEO of your company, you need to put in the time to look at your numbers. Well, maybe you're saying, I need more clients, I'm drowning, I'm the only one dealing with scheduling and so forth, payroll. We understand that, but all that effort towards what? So the sooner you can create that time, just make it a habit, put it on your calendar to sit down and look at your numbers. You will see a different picture. That is the discipline that most successful home care owners put in their routine. They don't guess, they build a rhythm, they build a system that helps them track their expenses, watch trends over time, and they stop reacting, right? They don't react, they anticipate because the signs are there. We just need to catch them early enough. And once we catch them, we need to find the best strategies to fix them. And here's the truth, every owner eventually learns. If you don't control your numbers will control you. That's simple. At some point, you have to shift from running the business day to day to leading the business through your numbers. So let me ask you something as usual. If you looked at your numbers right now, would you know exactly where your biggest leak is? Or would you have to spend time figuring it out? And be honest, have you been focusing more on increasing your revenue instead of improving your profits? Because that shift alone can completely change your business. So what's one area right now that you know needs tightening? That one leak that you need to plug? If we can help you identify fixing any leaks in your business, reach out to us, right? We'll walk you through the numbers. Schedule your 30 minutes free consultation. You have the link at the bottom of this video. Schedule your 30 minutes free consultation. We'll walk you, look at your numbers, your real numbers, not any made up numbers, right? Your numbers, because they're always telling you a story, will help you improve your profitability. Because once you understand your numbers and you stop guessing, guess what? You start leading your business with confidence. So if this video resonated, like it, share it with a friend or a colleague, subscribe so you get more strategies, more tips to help you run a more efficient home care agency so you can look at your bottom line and feel good about your efforts, feel good about the difference that you're making in the community, because compassion is your calling and wealth is your reward. But if you don't know how to plug the holes, you will struggle to make your business profitable.